The Council's Mockery, 770 words. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was a place where stars themselves seemed to bow. The ceiling was built of transparent alloy, showing the spiral arms of the galaxy beyond, glowing in eternal silence. Delegates from hundreds of species sat in rows, their voices rising and falling like storms, each one certain of its own wisdom. At the very center stood a smaller platform, reserved for the envoys of Earth. 3 humans waited there, standing calm while the chamber thundered with laughter, whispers, and ridicule. "They call themselves a fleet," one reptilian delegate hissed, his scales glittering under the light, "but their ships are fragile toys compared to ours." Another, from a species with wings folded close, let out a sharp laugh. "Humans have courage, yes, but courage is not armor. They are just humans. Weak bones, soft flesh, and short lives." The phrase rippled through the chamber like venom. Just humans. The humans said nothing. Their leader, a man with gray at his temples and eyes as sharp as blades, simply stood and watched. His silence was more unsettling than words. Some in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. They had heard rumors, whispers carried on encrypted channels, reports buried by officials, and the faint traces of something vast moving at the edge of detection grids. Patrol ships had gone missing. Outposts had fallen silent. Always the same direction, toward Sol. But arrogance is heavier than truth. A large insectoid delegate struck the table with his claw. "Enough of these games. Humanity should be contained. Their world is a single blue planet, their fleets a handful of rusting hulls. They dare to demand equal standing here. Absurd." The council roared in agreement, yet above the laughter a faint tremor shook the chamber, barely felt, but enough to silence some voices. One of the humans finally spoke. His voice was steady, calm, almost too calm. "We asked for respect, not because we are strong, but because we are not weak. You laugh at our lives, our ships, our bones. You say we are just humans. Remember those words, hold them close, because soon you will wish they were true." The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Then the chamber erupted again. Laughter, anger, jeers. But hidden among the noise were worried glances, shifting eyes, and the faint shadow of fear. Outside the council's world, deep in the void, machines older than the council's own laws stirred awake. Human ships, black as night and silent as death, slid into formation. Their drives made no flare, no light, no sound. Only the faint distortion of stars around them revealed their presence. The human fleet had arrived. Back in the chamber, the council's highest chancellor rose, his voice booming. "This meeting is adjourned. Humanity's request is denied. We will keep them under watch. They are not a threat." The words sounded strong, but even as he spoke them, faint signals were detected in the system. Shadows moved against the stars, coming closer, silent and patient. The human envoys turned without another word and left the chamber. The council thought they had won. They thought the phrase "just humans" would be enough to bury the truth. But the galaxy was already trembling, and soon every star would know. Humanity was no longer asking. They were here, the shadows of steel. The galaxy was wide, yet whispers travel faster than light. Soon after the council mocked Earth, rumors spread across every trade hub and station. Merchant captains spoke in hushed voices, soldiers questioned their officers, and even smugglers paused before crossing certain routes. Something was moving. Patrol fleets that once vanished without explanation were now linked together in a chain of mystery. They had all been sent near Sol's region of space. Not one had returned. The council tried to silence the rumors. They announced that technical accidents and pirate raids were to blame. But the truth was harder to bury than they thought. Fragments of transmissions survived, faint recordings filled with static, cut short by screams and sudden silence. No one could explain them. One night, over the dark surface of the council's capital moon, a private meeting was held. Generals from 3 of the most powerful empires gathered in secret. Their faces were tense, their eyes sharp. "We cannot ignore this," said the scaled general, his claws clicking against the table. "If humanity has built something, we must crush it before it grows." A winged commander leaned forward. "Their homeworld is small. Their industry cannot rival ours. They lack the resources, the colonies, the experience. And yet—" His voice trailed off, his wings twitching. "Where are our patrols? Why do our scanners detect shadows without sources?" The insectoid general's voice buzzed low. "Fear is a poison. We will not drink it. Humanity is still prey." They nodded, but none of them fully believed their own words. To prove their strength, the Council ordered a monitoring action. Dozens of fleets were sent to Earth's borders. They expected to frighten the humans with a show of force, but the fleets never made it. One by one, their signals winked out. No distress calls, no null words, just silence. On the Council floor, panic was carefully hidden behind official speeches. Rebellion among patrol crews. Unknown stellar anomalies. Unstable wormhole routes. Excuses piled higher, but unease spread faster. Meanwhile, human envoys no longer asked for respect. They simply watched, silent and patient, as if they already knew what was coming. Far beyond the Council's reach, at the edge of the galaxy, a small smuggler ship stumbled upon something no one was meant to see. The captain, a nervous trader with more luck than sense, was hiding from patrols when his sensors caught distortions in space. At first he thought it was broken equipment, but then, out of the black void, shapes emerged. Ships. Not the fragile freighters of Earth, not the rusty cruisers spoken of in council chambers. These were titans, massive hulls of black steel, gliding without sound, their surfaces swallowing the light. Their weapons were hidden, but the very shape of them suggested violence. The smuggler's hands shook as he recorded the images. His crew begged him to run, but the ships ignored them, silent and cold, as if a fly had entered the path of a storm. The smuggler barely escaped. When he reached a neutral station, he sold the recordings for food and fuel. Within days, the entire underworld knew. Within weeks, the rumors reached the Council itself. This time, they could not deny it. The galaxy now had a name for the shadows, the human fleet. Still, the Council clung to pride. "If these ships exist," declared the Chancellor, "they are few in number. We will face them. The galaxy is united and humanity is small. Let them come." But in the hidden corners of the hall, away from the cameras, even the boldest leaders whispered, "What if we are wrong?" Out in the void, humanity's fleet moved again. It did not roar. It did not announce itself. It flowed like a shadow, vast and endless, each ship a ghost of iron and silence. They carried no banners, no declarations, only patience. And as the Council slept under their illusions of power, those shadows drew closer. Soon, they would no longer be whispers. They would be reality. First contact with the fleet. For weeks, the galaxy buzzed with rumors, but the Council refused to bend. The word fear had no place in their speeches. Their pride was their armor, and arrogance was their shield. But shields can break. The Council finally ordered a direct mission, a scouting fleet of 30 warships, armed with the latest weapons, to locate and confront whatever phantom fleet humanity supposedly commanded. The order was clear: bring back proof or bring back wreckage. The fleet moved with confidence. Their commanders laughed on encrypted channels. 30 ships against some primitive humans? This is not war. It is pest control. Yet in their silence, some crew members remembered the lost patrols. They checked their scanners twice. They whispered of ghosts in the dark. As the ships entered the black sector near Sol, their instruments began to flicker. Screens dimmed, signals grew fuzzy. The Admiral dismissed it as faulty equipment, but the truth was far darker. Then it happened. A scout frigate at the edge of the formation saw something. At first it looked like empty space, but the stars behind it bent ever so slightly, like light on water. The crew stared, breath caught in their throats. And then the shadows moved. Dozens of vast black shapes emerged from the void. They carried no lights, no banners, no sound, only silence. The stars bent and twisted around them, as if the universe itself wished to hide their presence. The human fleet. The admiral barked orders. Weapons charged. Targeting systems locked. The alien fleet's 30 ships prepared to fire. But before they could release a single shot, their systems went dark. One by one, engines shut down, weapons froze, shields collapsed. The ship, Jazz, floated, helpless, like prey caught in a hunter's trap. On the flagship's bridge, panic broke. We've lost power. Our drives are offline. Weapons not responding. Then a voice came through every channel. Calm, cold, human. You came looking for us. The voice echoed in every ear across every ship. It was not shouted, not angry. It was controlled, measured, and terrifying in its calmness. Now you have found us. On the scanners, the human fleet grew closer. Hulls black as night, each one larger than the last, sliding forward with a patience that felt more deadly than any weapon. The admiral, trembling, tried to respond. This is the Council's fleet. You are ordered to stand down in the name of—" The human voice cut him off. Your council mocked us. They called us just humans. Remember their words. Remember them well. Because the next time they are spoken, it will be over ruins. Then silence again. The alien crew stared at their screens, helpless, as the human ships moved past them. Not a single shot was fired. Not a single life was taken. Humanity did not need to fight to prove its strength. Their presence was enough. And then, as suddenly as they had appeared, the human fleet vanished into the dark. The systems of the 30 alien ships flickered back to life. Engines restarted, weapons reactivated, shields returned. The crews sat in stunned silence. Their hands shook on controls. Their hearts hammered in their chests. They had seen the truth. The admiral gave no orders for battle. Instead, he whispered the only command left to give. Send word to the council. Tell them the humans are real. When the battered fleet limped back to the council's capital, the delegates demanded answers. The admiral stood in the grand hall, his voice hollow. We faced them. We were powerless. They could have destroyed us in seconds. Instead, they let us live, not out of weakness, out of choice. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted lies, demanding proof. Others trembled in silence, unable to deny the fear tightening their throats. The recordings were played, distorted stars, black hulls, the calm human voice cutting through the void. When the last echo faded, no one laughed. For the first time, the council did not speak the phrase, just humans. But in the silence that followed, a new fear took root. If humanity's fleet could disable 30 ships without firing a shot, what would they do when they chose to unleash their true power? The galaxy was about to find out. The test of fire. The council could no longer laugh. The recordings from the scouting fleet had spread across every star system. Traders whispered of black ships moving through the void. Warlords spoke of a new predator, and even smugglers avoided Sol. But the council was not ready to admit defeat. Pride is a poison stronger than fear. We are the galaxy's guardians, the chancellor declared in the grand hall, his voice trembling under the weight of lies. We cannot allow a single species to frighten us. Humanity must be tested and crushed. Thus they gathered a coalition fleet. Not 30 ships, not 100, but thousands. Every empire sent their strongest, dreadnoughts, carriers, frigates, cruisers. Their armada stretched across the stars, a storm of metal and fire. The council believed no force could stand against such power. They will see, a winged commander said to his peers, that numbers alone will drown these shadows. The fleet moved with confidence. Their banners filled the void. They wanted not only to win, but to humiliate. At the edge of Sol's space they found silence. No human ships, no defenses. Just the cold emptiness of space. The admirals laughed. See, the rumors were smoke. The humans hide, afraid of our might. But then the stars shifted. At first it seemed like a trick of the eye, darkness moving against darkness. But then the truth emerged. The human fleet. Not dozens this time. Hundreds. Thousands. Black hulls sliding into view, silent and endless, until the void itself seemed to bow before them. The coalition fleet hesitated. For the first time, their confidence cracked. "Stand firm!" The Chancellor's voice thundered over secure channels. "Fire upon them! Show them the galaxy's wrath!" Weapons charged. Beams of light and streams of fire filled the void. The galaxy's finest unleashed everything they had. But the human fleet did not break. Their hulls absorbed the storm like shadows swallowing light. Shields shimmered, systems bent but did not fall. And then, humanity answered. It was not loud. It was not wild. It was precise. Lances of energy cut through dreadnoughts as if they were glass. Silent missiles struck carriers, ripping them apart before alarms could sound. Entire wings of fighters vanished in blinding flashes, erased before they could even fire. The human fleet did not waste shots. Every strike was measured, every target chosen with terrifying intelligence. On the Council's flagship, panic spread. "We are losing formation." Entire lines destroyed. "They know our weak points." How? No one knew. But the truth was clear. Humanity had studied them. Every ship, every design, every tactic. They knew the Council's fleets better than the Council knew themselves. The Coalition tried to retreat, but retreat was not allowed. Human ships cut off escape routes with surgical precision. No chase, no wild pursuit, just quiet walls of steel closing in. One admiral screamed into the comms, "They are not fighting like prey, they are hunting us!" In less than an hour, half the Coalition fleet was gone. The rest scattered, broken, desperate to survive. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the human fleet stopped. They did not destroy everything. They did not chase the fleeing ships. They let them go. The surviving commanders sat in stunned silence, unsure if they were alive by luck or design. Then the human voice returned, calm, cold. "Now you know." The message ended. The Council's greatest armada had been shattered. Their pride was broken, their arrogance exposed. Across the galaxy, fear became truth. Humanity was no longer just humans. They were a force that could erase empires. On the Council floor, no one dared speak the phrase again. Delegates who once mocked Earth now avoided even saying its name. But deep inside, a darker question spread. If the humans had chosen mercy today, what would happen on the day they chose otherwise? The death of arrogance, the ruins of the Coalition fleet drifted across the stars like broken bones. Fires burned inside shattered hulls, silent in the void. Survivors limped back to their worlds, carrying stories so terrible that no propaganda could erase them. Everywhere the galaxy trembled. On trade stations, merchants spoke of shadows that moved like storms. On frontier colonies, children whispered the words their parents feared to say, "The humans are coming." Even warlords, once proud of their cruelty, avoided the Sol sector like a plague. But the Grand Council still sat in its hall, pretending to command the galaxy. Delegates shouted across the chamber, their voices filled with fear disguised as rage. "This cannot be. No single species can hold such power. They cheated. They must have stolen our designs. They cannot be allowed to continue." But beneath the noise, their eyes told the truth. Fear, doubt, broken pride. Then the chamber fell silent. The doors opened, and the human envoys entered once more. The same calm figures, standing as still as stone. No guards, no weapons. Just their presence was enough to silence hundreds of alien voices. One of them stepped forward. His face was unreadable, his voice steady. "Your fleets attacked us. We did not ask for war, but we answered." No one dared interrupt. "You called us just humans, fragile, weak, prey, and yet you saw your greatest. Let fleets fall in ours. Not because we seek conquest, but because we prepare for survival. We have always prepared." The council's chancellor, once so bold, now trembled behind his podium. His mouth opened, but no words came. The human's gaze swept the hall. "We do not want your thrones, we do not want your crowns. But understand this, mockery ends today. When you speak of humanity, you will not say just humans. You will remember Saul. You will remember the fleet that appeared when you thought us nothing." The death of arrogance. The ruins of the coalition fleet drifted across the stars like broken bones. Fires burned inside shattered hulls, silent in the void. Survivors limped back to their worlds, carrying stories so terrible that no propaganda could erase them. Everywhere, the galaxy trembled. On trade stations, merchants spoke of shadows that moved like storms. On frontier colonies, children whispered the words their parents feared to say, "The humans are coming." Even warlords, once proud of their cruelty, avoided the Sol sector like a plague. But the Grand Council still sat in its hall, pretending to command the galaxy. Delegates shouted across the chamber, their voices filled with fear disguised as rage. "This cannot be. No single species can hold such power. They cheated. They must have stolen our designs. They cannot be allowed to continue." But beneath the noise, their eyes told the truth. Fear, doubt, broken pride. Then the chamber fell silent. The doors opened, and the human envoys entered once more. The same calm figures, standing as still as stone. No guards, no weapons. Just their presence was enough to silence hundreds of alien voices. One of them stepped forward. His face was unreadable, his voice steady. "Your fleets attacked us. We did not ask for war, but we answered." No one dared interrupt. "You called us just humans, fragile, weak, Ray. And yet you saw your greatest fleets fall in ours, not because we seek conquest, but because we prepare for survival. We have always prepared." The council's chancellor, once so bold, now trembled behind his podium. His mouth opened, but no words came. The human's gaze swept the hall. "We do not want your thrones. We do not want your crowns. But understand this, mockery ends today. When you speak of humanity, you will not say just humans. You will remember Sol. You will remember the fleet that appeared when you thought us nothing." A silence heavier than war filled the chamber. Some delegates lowered their heads, others could not even breathe. Then, as if to mark the moment, a signal cut through every channel in the galaxy. Humanity's fleet had arrived again, not hidden this time, not silent. They appeared in orbit above the Council's very world, thousands of black ships filling the skies, their shadows stretching across the cities below. Citizens looked up in terror, thinking the end had come. But no weapon fired, no bombardment fell. The fleet simply hovered watching. It was a message, a reminder, a truth carved into the stars. Back in the chamber, the human envoy spoke his final words. "We will leave you in peace, but you will never again call us weak. You will never again say just humans." Those words died today. And then they turned and walked away. The council sat frozen. Not one dared to stop them. Above the planet, the human fleet vanished into the black once more. Silent, patient, eternal. From that day forward, the galaxy changed. The phrase "just humans" was never spoken again. Instead, across the stars, a new phrase was whispered, one carried on every station, every colony, every empire that had once mocked. Respect the humans. Because the galaxy had learned the truth too late. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm, and the storm had only just begun.